You've had the luxury of a full week of training this week, and the Blackburn game's the first of yet another tough month. They've been free scoring, and now they've got injuries and had a bad result at Doncaster, so they'll be wanting to bounce back rather like yourself after the cup defeat. How do you see the game panning out?
Yeah, I don't think the cup really plays a factor in the game, to be honest. I think that we obviously had a very difficult game against a very top side, and we struggled in the latter part of that game. I felt 4-0 was a bit harsh on us, but equally Leicester showed their quality. I think Blackburn made a few changes to their team, and they obviously would be disappointed to go out to a team from the league below. But I think when the cup, it's almost like you refocus again when the league comes around, and so I don't think either of those two results will have any real bearing on what happens on Saturday.
So you've got 23 games left. You've been hard to beat, but now the most difficult part is to turn those draws into wins. And have you used this week to work on sort of ball retention and more progressive possession or creativity, any of those things, or all those things?
Well, yeah, we work on that consistently, but we can't work on that with the players that are injured, obviously. So, and we've had 3 to 4 strikers at any one time injured, so that hasn't helped us, and particularly in recent weeks, in that side of things. But yeah, look, we're consistently looking at that. Obviously, when we haven't been scoring of late, so we have to address that. We've tried to do that with the players we've brought in so far in the window as well. And it's just consistent. It's a consistent job each week to make sure that we try and improve in that area of the pitch. You're right. We spoke with the players. It was a good meeting today with the players. Sort of reflected on the first half of the season where we've been good, areas that we feel we need to improve on, and those areas are going to be key in terms of where what type of second half of the season we have. We have to aspire to improve even on what we've done in the first half of the season to give ourselves a chance of obviously a top 6 position.
You've got the arrival of Matando, Norrington Davis, and now the announcement of Clark. They're going to give you certainly more pace and probably be better suited to the 4-3-3 that you want to play, but I'm pretty sure they won't all be in the starting 11 on Saturday. You'll have to give them some chance to get used to the club, won't you?
I don't know. I might pick a different team from you, Angela, to be fair. But look, the boys have trained today. We've obviously had Rabi in last week. Look, there is a period of that. They're young players as well. Be mindful of that. The 3 players I think are 20 years. They're each just 20 years old. They do bring pace. They bring a bit of freshness, which we felt at this time would help us in going forward in the second half of the season. And they also come with a point to prove, which I think is as important as them. They're young players at the start of their careers, and that's you can see it in how their attitudes already. And the thing that really struck me about the 3 players is they were still keen to come. It was once we got agreement from their clubs, it wasn't difficult to do any of those deals. They had a real desire to come, and that was positive for us, and did a good job in the recruitment of that. But we'll just have to see what we go with Saturday. But equally, all 3 players are certainly within contention to start.
Well, I'm hoping your team is picked as the same as mine, but if not, I'll go with your team anyway. Sam Vokes has been the subject of some criticism for missing the odd chance he's had, but presumably he, Fletcher, and anybody who plays up front will now get a better supply when these players bed in.
Yeah, I think, look, strikers they never like to be going through that period where they're missing chances. I think in Sam's defence, particularly in a game like the Leicester game where he's, the chance at 0-0, you don't get that level of chance very often against a Premier League team either. I think that, what we've tried to do is add pace in the final third. I definitely think that will help us in relation to who we play as the striker if we play 4-3-3. And often the strikers have had to play in a 3-5-2 formation, which has sometimes made it a little bit more difficult in terms of getting the right type of supply to them from the wing-back areas as well. But those things have been forced on us a little bit as well through injury. But yeah, I think second half of the season, we certainly want to try and get back to a team which was, early on in the season we were pretty free scoring, and certainly we want to try and get back to that. But equally, still make sure that we keep the clean sheets. I think we've 12 clean sheets, which is the second highest in the division. And for those number of clean sheets, we should have had more wins than draws because of that level of clean sheets that we've had. And that's something we obviously have to look to address as well.
Could you give us an injury? And I guess we ought to ask for a COVID update these days. What are the updates?
Well, Fletcher and Gregory are still, on their way back. The two goalkeepers have joined in training this week, today actually. They probably need a little bit more training, to be honest, to come into consideration. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who else we have. Morgan Fox is back running, so that'll take a little bit of time. Obviously, Tyrese is a long-term version, and we were tested today. Josh Timon should be back after the COVID. From, I think, Saturday, Josh is available again, but obviously he'll not be back training before then. So he'll not be available. And the other player, we just have to wait. We tested today. So at this moment in time, we don't have those results just back at this moment in time.
And is Nick Powell okay? Was he rested for the cup game?
Yeah, Nick was rested. He'd had a little bit of illness. It wasn't COVID related. He had a little bit of a hip problem as well that he's been managing. But, Nick's played the most minutes for us this season. So him and James Chester are the two that have played the most minutes. So we felt that they were two players that could do with a break. And obviously we had, experienced players to come in there and replace them for the cup game.
And while we're on the subject of transfers, or rather while I'm bringing up the subject of transfers, every Stoke supporter will want to know how your search for a striker is going on and if we can expect any more ins.
I think, everyone's looking for a striker. And I think in this window, the opportunities, particularly in that position, are pretty limited. There's nothing, for example, we can't go out and spend £5 million on a striker. We have to, more likely, it will be someone that's coming in on loan. And we just have to see what options are available. At this minute in time, the options are very limited from in that arrangement. We have to also be mindful of the players that we have in the building. I think, we can't just continually sign players. We need some players to think about, who are on the periphery of things to possibly get the opportunity to find first team football elsewhere as well. But we're continually looking. We know what areas of the team we'd still like to improve. And as I say, if we're able to do that, we'll try to do it. But I think this window's why we're pleased to get the players we've got in so quickly, is it gives us the maximum time with the players. And secondly, we're not stuck at the end of the window, and possibly not got the players we want and taking players in who maybe weren't our first choice. So we've got the first choice that we wanted in the wide areas, but I think possibly we'll have to be a little bit more patient in the striker situation.
Well, I was going to ask you about the outs, because obviously you said when you came to Stoke, you had rather a large squad and you've added to it. How lucky do you think you'll be? Lucky's probably the wrong word. How do you think you'll manage to get players out, if you will get players out? How important is that for you?
I think it's look, if you look at it from the point of view of what we've tried to do in every window is reduce the squad, and this, it'll be slightly more difficult in this window, I think, because of where clubs are and what they're able to do. But we have still 5 or 6 players who are out on loan at other clubs, players left in the summer as well. And, there's players who've played very limited minutes this season, and, they need to find regular first team football. And at the end of the day, as the parent club, we can only accommodate that if someone inquires to take them away. It's not a case of us denying them the opportunity, but the opportunity has to be there for those players to go out and play. As yet, obviously, there's clubs that, as I say, aren't openly inquiring too much about players because the window is difficult. I think a lot of clubs, financially, it's a more difficult decision for them to make. But as I say, if there's inquiries for players, we'll evaluate those and see if it's the right thing for the club and the right thing for the player.
How frustrating is that for you and for the players concerned, Michael?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think more so for the players. I know that from being a player myself and being out of the side and wanting to play. And it's much more difficult now from when I played, where you have to, obviously you're curtailed by transfer windows. We weren't for a long portion of when I played, and then it's frustrating for us because our bodies are too high, and we obviously want to work with a focused squad. So. But it is the nature of the transfer window. It's the nature of the game now. And we have players possibly, as I say, who need to find that opportunity to go and play elsewhere.
Thank you for your time. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ange. George now, please.
Thanks for joining us, Michael. Obviously, first of all, you've been very proactive in the transfer window, and certainly several of those players have already indicated they want game time, and their parent clubs, I would imagine, want them to have game time as well. Is that going to be difficult in terms of the young players coming in, like Clark coming in, of course, into it, and Davis? Is going to be able to fit them in, get the game time they require, what the parent clubs might want from them as well?
Well, there's no stipulations on game time. We wouldn't agree to loans on that basis because it's too restrictive. But equally, we wouldn't brought them in unless we believed they were capable of playing and being starting players for us. We're not needing players to bring in to bulk up the squad. We're bringing players in, hopefully, that can give us an edge and a new dimension in this second half of the season. So these players still have to come in and prove themselves. They have to come in and prove that they can help us and can improve us. And also it adds competition for places, which is healthy, so players know that they have to be at their best to stay in the team. Creates a competitive environment, a competitive atmosphere within the club. Those are all things that we want to do. So, it's down to the three lads who've come in to establish themselves, and then obviously if they get the opportunity, then it's down to them. But the most important thing is, as I say, is that we have that healthy competition for places.
And certainly the adaptability of all those players you've brought in have got that ingredient which is called pace, which you've always wanted to get, and you've got it in abundance at the moment, Michael. So that gives you a better balance, do you feel?
Yeah, I think it gives us a better balance in terms of, particularly the options we have in wide areas now. Morgan's injury, I think, highlighted the problem we've had at left back, particularly with Josh Timon being ill at the same period as well. So that's just an example of the challenges we face. I think that, you just never know one week to the next how things will develop this season. You can have a COVID situation. We had that earlier in the season with Morgan Fox, for example, James McLean, and suddenly you're missing a player for 3 or 4 games that you didn't anticipate. He's not injured, but he either had to self-isolate or he did have a positive test. So those are all challenges that, I think every manager at every club is having to deal with. So, look, the important thing is to have the, a squad that can get us through to the end of the season and hopefully, as I say, give us the opportunity to push into a top 6 position.
And another player you're interested in also has that pace, Adaptability. Is there any movement on that side of it? Are you still pretty keen to come in to Stoke City?
Alfie's a player that discussions are ongoing between ourselves and Charlton. We tried to bring Alfie in January, in the summer rather, but we weren't able to do so. So it's an ongoing process, that one really, and it's probably a little bit more complex at the minute because the player has an injury. But as I say, I haven't got any more information really other than that to update you on that.
Moving on then, of course, this weekend, Blackburn Rovers, of course, like yourself, they're at the FA Cup, and it was a nice distraction, but the league will always be the priority, Michael, for both of you, won't it?
Yeah, of course it is. I think, look, we had a nice run in the Carabao Cup that took us to the quarter-final, and it was a good experience for us, and it allowed us to integrate some of the younger players, which has helped us this season. There's no doubt about that. But Leicester was a tough tie. I felt we were in the game up until the first goal, and I felt we were in the game still until the second goal, and then obviously the game becomes difficult against that level of opposition. They came with a very strong team, and as I say, now it allows us to focus on the league, and Blackburn will be the same. They'll have that focus. I think they're a very good side. I was very impressed with them when we played them here. Tough game for us that we managed to win 1-0. So I don't envisage the game will be any easier come Saturday.
Certainly for yourself, obviously, goal difference could be a big important factor for all teams. And at the moment, it's looking quite good in your favour. But you'd like to get back to what you were maybe a few months ago, Michael, where you were hitting the target more consistently.
Yeah, we were scoring more goals. There's no doubt about that. I think, but look, we've lost players with injury who were key in that, obviously, and that's been a big factor, I think, in the consistency in terms of what we've managed to score. And we just have to try and find a way in the second half of the season to be more potent in front of the goal. It's there's aspects we've been very good in terms of keeping clean sheets, but certainly, yeah, we've been disappointed in recent weeks that we've obviously not scored in games that we felt would have been enough then to take the 3 points as opposed to drawing the game, but that just hasn't happened, and we just got to continue to find a way to be a little bit more of a threat, particularly in the final third of the pitch. And as I say, that's the message that we've hammered home to the players for the second half of the season.
And certainly Blackburn, you came across them just a few weeks ago with a few injuries, but they're always a threat, Michael, aren't they, really, particularly on the counter with Armstrong?
Well, they're a good side. They've got arguably, I think Armstrong's probably the top scorer in the division. So he's had a fantastic season, and I think he's a great player. And yeah, they've got good players. There's no doubt about that. They've been a free scoring team. They're not without their own challenges. They've had a few injuries, and they've been a little bit unsettled in their back four at times as well. So look, we expect a tough game, as I say, and hopefully it'll be an open game that we can come out and top in.